I know what you're thinking, but this video isn't what you think. It isn't going to be one of those videos where people sulk about how movies used to hit back in the 80s, the 90s, or even in the 1960s, where people jump to their conclusions on how movies started to suck after the year 2006, therefore movies today are forgettable. No. This video is about a movie that I last watched. Since then, I haven't really thought about watching another movie. I sort of stopped, and I really do not understand why. Maybe this doesn't even have to do with the question, with the title of the video, but perhaps maybe I am feeling burnt out of movies. The film in question is the 1981 film My Dinner with Andre. This movie broke me in a way that I feel like I should stop watching movies altogether, and it also made me feel pretty scared that what if conspiracy theorists were right all along, the ones you see on YouTube, and plus, the masses did not see it coming. And if you don't know what this movie's about, I will break it down as briefly and coherent as the best as I can. It follows two playwright actors, Wallace Shawn and Andre Gregory, are meeting up for a dinner night, and the two have not seen each other in quite a long time. Wallace was obligated and somehow forced to have dinner with Andre. He would find him quite peculiar after a rumor that Andre left the theater and went on to a spiritual journey across the world. So the two meet up and the dinner had commenced. It is also just two people talking to each other, and that's just it. It becomes more fascinating once you listen to the conversation, and pretty awkward at the same time. Now, during the second half of the film, it all started to click. There were quotes from playwright actor Andre Gregory playing as his own character, and he said the following. Now, I can't really show any clips from the movie, but I will read you some quotes. Yes, we are bored. We are all bored now, but has it ever occurred to you that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just the question of individual survival, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no. Don't you see that comfort can be dangerous? I mean, you like to be comfortable, and I like to be comfortable too, but comfortable can lull you into a dangerous tranquility. Turn on that electric blanket, and it's like taking a tranquilizer, or it's like being lobotomized by watching television. I think you've entered the dream world again. He no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some sort of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, and that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there was once a species called a human being with feelings and thoughts, that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet. I am not so sure which of these quotes could make me feel mortified, if that's the word I'm looking for, but the more I stew into these quotes, the more worried I am. I am beginning to feel questioned about my humanity, and all this time I'm not even a human being. I was born in 1996, and it was argued to be the first year of Gen Z since after 1969, I am not classified as a human being. Like, what the fuck happened? And who the fuck am I, a robot? And I'm starting to lose my mind about this. I really am. I'm not sure if I want to ask anybody for help because as the movie says, everybody else is a robot and they could feel or think nothing. But no, the last thing I ever want to go off is on the deep end, and I can't force myself down to that path because of what the film said well, maybe not Andre Gregory in real life, but the director Louis Malle. Like, the more you think about these quotes, it becomes more dangerously true in today's culture in the year 2026, which is today. These days, you see a lot of people on their phones, even children also, which is not a very good sign. And most of these people, well, to some other people just don't act like people, talk like people, or even move like people. And am I part of the robotic society? And was I part of the problem? Now, back then, I was a very different person. When I was younger, I was loud, rude, and selfish, and watched a lot of television, playing a lot of games pretty chronically. Then later in life, I was actually aware of my habits, my attitude, and my mistakes. And what about my humanity? Was I a robot then, or still today? Now, I may sound like I'd be coming off on the deep end, but I just want to debate this. So the first argument, what if in this movie Andre was right all along and all of a sudden I wasn't a human being this entire time, being part of the problem, and thus I am a robot that I didn't know that I was being controlled, and I don't know if I can wake up from that, or if I was even conscious at all. I could not even wake up. Then the second argument, that what if he was wrong and we are still human beings and we have free will and everybody is not a robot? I mean, sure, we are careless, but we need to be more aware these days as a human race. We should recognize the problems, rationalize what we say and we think, and how we feel. Imagine if an older person online who's a major conspiracy theorist telling me to stop using all sorts of technology altogether, like my phone or gaming systems, because of what the movie had theorized 45 years ago. I would tell this person, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do, as if you're my father of some sorts. What really rubs me the wrong way is that I would feel gaslit and shamed for ever using all technology, and not just my phone or whatever, but other machinery such as washing machines, microwaves, or even printers, and yes, of course, electric blankets. But oh no, comfort is dangerous, and if you can even, and it can also put you in a trance that you are entered in the dream world again, thus you are being a robot. Because I like being comfortable, I like all sorts of things, even movies. See, this is the kind of debate that I'm still trying to wrestle with as of me writing and recording this video, and I don't know if I'll ever find answers. Perhaps I'll never will, because the internet is just made up of strangers you will never meet or you have never met before, and I want to ask, and if I ever ask for help, one of the first things I get told is to touch grass, find God, go outside, breathe air, and they just have nothing original to say, because other users would think I am just a chronically ill lolcow, and they are so quick to judge, and nobody is honestly human enough to even offer suggestions or even least advice. I have touched grass before many, many times, and went outside many, many times. And at this point, I think it's just a rude thing to say to another person online who thought to be chronically online, but all I wanted to do is just express myself and ask questions that I really wanted to ask, and find answers, but I'll just never end up finding proper answers to anything that I asked. And as for finding God, I'm just going to say this out of respect. I am not covertly a religious person, and even if I were a little religious, I would not force religion upon others, and it is their right to believe what they believe. I know therapy is also an option, and I've tried therapy just once before in my own college. Now, I don't remember if it worked. Maybe I thought maybe it didn't work, but did it work really? I just couldn't remember. Maybe I haven't even given a proper try or go through sessions, and I have yet to talk about movies in general. So I don't know what it is. Burnout maybe. So since after watching that movie, I stopped for a while and just pondered for a long time. And also, due to the quotes being that comfort is dangerous, yeah, I mean, that is that the case? Movies are a part of my life, and even a big part of my life, if I do say so myself. It is one of my main interests, and it's also my comfort. I and I would I always thought about making a movie or even writing a short film at the very least. But Super Laser, it is just a movie. Why do you take it so seriously? I want to think so too. And then you have another group of people saying, you see, this is all true. This is all happening right now, and you need to give up all your things because, if you do that, you will not become a mindless machine, not giving into the robots. Thus, you need to wake up. And at this point, I'm confused and running out of things to say. Now, as for the film's director, did he knew this was all coming, or was this a coincidence? Wouldn't have somebody sounded some sort of alarm back then? But nobody will believe you. People will just think you're crazy. Like, it's like the beginning to the movie Chicken Little, and keep that in mind. Referencing movies is just all I typically know. Causing a public panic could get you in serious trouble, and it's just best to just live our lives. And as for myself, I want to ask anybody who watched My Dinner with Andre, do I consider myself as human? Does comfort really turn me into a robot? Should I give up on watching movies so that I can no longer feel comfort, then revert back into a human being and stay this way, as well as giving up all sorts of technology in the last 200 years? Am I just completely delirious? Maybe I am going off on the deep end, and I just need to consider therapy. Really and that's really all I wanted to know. Hello everyone, post Super Laser here for this edit. Now, I just want to add some closing thoughts. My bed's messy, sorry about that. And I got my hair cut. At the end of the day, I'm still pretty confused, and I'll never understand anything, anything that is just complicated to me, and perhaps I never will. And I probably never should have watched this movie in the first place. But don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it is a pretty interesting film to watch. But at the same time, once you're exposed to the truth, it's out there forever and you really can't unsee it. You know, Too much of the truth really make anybody go insane, or at least that's what I think. So, I'm still burnt out of movies. Now, do I need a reason to watch movies again? Will I recover from this? And I probably will. I'm not going to give up watching movies despite, what the truth says about everything. It's just best, it's just for the best. I can always just stick to my composures. So with that being said, everything in the video. Yeah, there was a lot to get off of my chest. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'll probably see you in the next video.